If we leave the XR Stories projects at that point, because after that, you've already sort of mentioned in a couple of ways, you went on from there to explore augmented reality, and that was through the Creative XR programme, which is a joint initiative between the Arts Council England and the Digital Catapult organisation. I won't be so bold as to say there is a golden thread between kind of our funding and all the other wonderful things you've been doing since, but I think there is a sort of logical progression at least from that. So can you tell us a little bit about that project, how you brought sort of augmented reality, I guess, into your kind of creative practice, and then I guess also what it was like being part of the Creative XR programme?
So the idea of augmenting spaces through kind of changing the visual meaning of that space is something that's kind of inherent in the work that we do. And so augmented reality was a kind of a logical progression in order to do that, and a way of, because everyone has devices, everyone has kind of a phone or a pad or a mobile device, they've got the ability to see kind of cool augmented things that projections could do without the expense of it, really. With the XR Stories project, a long time ago, we made a piece called The Ice Book, which was a pop-up book that came to life with video projections. And our idea with that was like full-scale theatre show, but it became a thing. It became it grew legs, and it became its own kind of touring little miniature theatre piece. But in order for it to work, it needed a projector to be placed in a very specific way and hidden away, and it needed a lot of setup. So the idea with the Creative XR project was to create an augmented reality pop-up book that would just be much easier for people to experience, and something that could be kind of an at-home product eventually.
We initially conceived the project for Creative XR as a pop-up book that comes to life through a HoloLens, so through smart glasses. It wasn't going to be augmented reality with a tablet. It was going to be you put your glasses on and the magic starts to happen. But because the technology is still quite cumbersome and very expensive, and all our mentors said, just don't do it, not yet. So that's why we decided to do it with AR instead of smart glasses. But yeah, like Davy said, it's just a logical progression from what we do, which is just to enhance these real life environments, or like in our case, artworks or crafted things, to bring them to life with these technologies. And yeah, it was we couldn't have done the Creative XR application without all the knowledge that we had gained from the R&D we managed to do through the XR Stories grant. So the knowledge we gathered from one led to being able to do the next one. And I think the knowledge we're gaining from that, has probably informed the VR application we did for XR Stories. So it's just this continual progression, really.
And I don't think we've actually name-checked the project. So
yeah, The Invited is an augmented reality pop-up book experience that tells the story of a vampire that is trapped within the pages of the book. And upon opening the book, the audience release the spirit of the vampire into the world again. And that's what the piece is about, yeah.
Yeah, and it turns out that the spirit of a vampire is actually quite bad for the world. So the audience is complicit in a rather mischievous thing there. Magical.
And the Creative XR work is still ongoing. So what are you developing now? Where's that project at?
So that project, we're waiting for funding from France and Canada. So it's going to be an international co-production with France and Canada. And so we're supposed to hear about the funding outcome from France next week, and then next month from Canada. And in the meantime, we're using the Creative XR funding to work on the story. So we've commissioned a writer, and he's written a very beautiful story. And so we're it's really interesting to work with a writer on this kind of story, because it's usually in VR or AR or film, you can tell a story with lots of cuts, close-ups, cutting back and forth, etc., etc. But in this experience that we are creating, it has to be very linear. So you turn the pages of a book, you see a scene, and there's no way of getting a close-up or cutting to a detail. You have to tell the whole story within this one kind of wide view almost. And then once you turn the page, you're onto the next scene. You can't turn back to the previous scene. So there's a lot of logistics in working out how does the technology and the craft or the object really work together in order to tell a story. So it's quite interesting. It's not like commissioning a writer to come up with a great story. You get a draft and you say, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, because the physicality of the book, the rules of the book just won't allow it. So it's an interesting process at the moment.